Hello everyone and welcome back to part 3 of Drawing Buddy. So just quickly, part 1 we laid him out and in part 2 drew the eye. Um, I've done the other eye, it's the same, I've used the same colours, same technique, everything. So um, I suggest if you haven't watched those then to go back and watch those. And um, I will be drawing this one to completion, so if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, it helps me a lot. And you'll be notified then when I upload the next part. So anyway, let's get on with today. We are going to start his ear today. So um, this is where the highlights really help. So just tape that down actually. So as you can see, the highlights on his ear, what we can do is go around the highlights. So what I'm doing now, I'm just picking out the darkest places with very, very, very light pressure again, following the direction that the hair's growing in. Again, I'm not pressing hard at all. I went ahead when I finished that eye and just got a bit of the structure in around his eye. I use the same technique all over, really. What I do is, once I've got it laid out, put the highlights in. It makes it much easier once you've got those in to kind of see where you're going, and then from there it's just light pressure, following the darks to start off with. And this is Payne's Grey that I'm using at the moment, and this is clearly a black dog, but there's not, we won't be using much black in him. Um, Black dogs, sorry, are mainly greys and blues, purples. There's not much actual black in there, and when I do use the black, I I use the black, but I go over first with a blue or a purple or a red, something that's deep and dark. And then when you go over it with the black, you get a much, much richer tone of black. But we will come on to that when we get there. So for now, like I say, all I'm doing is just trying to plot these darker bits in. Again, take your time. This is not something that you can rush. Pressure-wise, I'm literally grazing the page, so if I was to do it on my hand, I'm trying to not even make a mark on my hand. So if I was pressing really hard, as you can see, the line, you can't see the actual crayon, but you can see how my skin is pushing in. I'm doing it so that I'm barely touching. Again, really important, or else you're not going to be able to get all of the layers down that you need. And then what we'll do after this, after we've got these darks in, is we will go in with a lighter blue. Start plotting the mid colours. At the moment, I am not working on detail at all, just working on tonal value. And the more tonal value that you get in, the more detail appears. So yeah, I'm not thinking that I'm drawing a dog. I'm thinking I'm seeing shapes and just trying to make the shapes the same, make them as dark or as light as they need to be. Obviously that takes more layers than just this one. This is just plotting out where the darks are, but it's the same principle. I don't ever think whatever I'm drawing, whether it's human or an animal, a horse, a dog, whatever, I pay no attention to what I'm actually drawing. I don't think, right, this is a dog, so it needs to look like this, because that's not the right way to approach it. You just need to see shapes and tonal value. And by the time you've got all those in, because it does take a long time, I'm going to try and keep this video under an hour. However, we might not get the whole year finished in under an hour. Completely depends. There's quite a lot going on in this year, so and again, this, because it's on Pastelmat, this is one of the reasons that I absolutely adore Pastelmat. Is at the moment you really don't have to be all that precise with where you're laying down your pencil, as long as you're using soft pressure. But I'm hoping by now that's a given, that's the whole thing is done with that. You don't ever, like, I don't burnish. I don't like the smoothie shine that it gives. So as long as you're using light pressure, you don't need to be all that precise with these markings, because you can go back over with a lighter pencil, a lighter grey or white or something, and just completely turn the darks into lights. And that is, it's just such an amazing thing to be able to do. That is. I've tried coloured pencil on Fabriano and on Bristol Vellum, Bristol Smooth, and you can't draw on it the same as you can Pastelmat. You really can't. You've got to be very precise from early on with paper, with Fabriano or Bristol or whatever, because although you can scrape off the pigment, um, you just can't go over darks with lights. It just goes muddy and not what we're looking for at all. So I exclusively just use Pastelmat now. Some people, I know lots of people that have a love-hate relationship with Pastelmat. Some people get on with it really well from the off. I did. As soon as I started drawing on it, I thought, yeah, this is what I want to be drawing on. But some people are just can't get used to it. And for me, the biggest thing is pressure. People's pressure is a personal thing. It's my light pressure might be somebody else's really heavy pressure, but it still feels like a light pressure to me. So that I think with Pastomat, you just need to give it a go. And most people will be surprised how easy it is to correct things and make things the way they need to look. If you go wrong somewhere, you can see down here, if you look at the reference image in the corner, the hair's growing this way, but then as it comes up, it's growing this way, and then as it comes up here, it's like this bit's going underneath this bit that's coming out. So that's what I mean by you really need to pay close attention to the direction of the fur, because that is one thing that everybody can do, and it instantly improves your drawing no end. If you get the fur in the right direction, you get your tonal values correct, then all you've got to worry about is colour. And again, with Pastomat, if you put the wrong colour down and you're not happy with it, it's the wrong tone, or it's too red or it's too blue, you can just go over it with a white or an ivory, and just turn it into white without pressure, without having to press really hard and damaging the tooth, because protecting the tooth is just as important as getting your tonal values correct. If you wear the tooth down in the paper, then there's you're limiting the amount of layers that you can get in, and it's the layers that really make the difference. It might seem like a lot of work, but when you can stand back at the end of it, say, yeah, I produced that. It's very, very enjoyable. And then when people start asking for commissions, and then you get commissions of animals that are no longer with us, and although sometimes it's difficult, the pictures might not be the best, it's still a massive honour to be asked to draw for somebody, their beloved, part of the family. Pet's part of the family. It really is. It really is a massive honour. Okay, so just get a bit more down in here. I'm using my tapered stroke on this, like I say, I want the direction of the fur, so I don't want to be just doing rounds. In places like this, I'll push rather than pulling down, I'm pushing up. Tapered stroke still, but pushing that pigment up into the deepest parts where the roots are, and then when you bring your lighter colour over the top, that's what gives you dimension, edge to values and gradation. Keep banging on about it, but if you can understand edge to values and understand gradation, it's just a matter of practicing and time. The more you practice, once you've got a firm understanding of gradation and edge to values, and it's not difficult to understand. And once you've got a firm grasp of that, you just need to draw and draw and draw. The more drawing you can do, the better, because it's just learning techniques and how colours work together, how things work together. But you haven't got to worry on trying to make it look 3D, because if you understand conceptually how it does look 3D and how it does look like it's alive, you don't have to worry about trying to make it look like that. You just do it. It just happens. I don't look around the drawing and think, right, where are my edge to values and where do I need to be, like, making it fade away and all that. I don't even think about it. It just happens. It just happens naturally. So I'm just going to get a bit more in here where this shadow's coming down. And so now I'm starting to get a feel of where things are. Again, it made much easier with the highlights already being there. So now I can start, go back in and make things darker, because you want to make sure everything's in the right place before you start going in and making things the correct tonal value. There's no point in making things the correct tonal value if they're not in the right place. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So you definitely want to just get your first layer down and just have a step back. Just make sure that everything is where you want it to be. Make any tweaks you need to make before you start working on the tonal value. So that is an edge to value, because his face is going around and then down underneath his ear. So the ear flaps over the top of his face that goes round behind it. So it's always going to be the darkest when it disappears behind his ear, and then it will fade out. So we can get that in. Like I said in part 2, I like to get my pieces looking as alive as possible, as early as possible. It definitely helps keep you motivated. If you can make it look something like straight away or early on. And one way I do that is by edge to values. Right, so let's just have a check and make sure everything is where I want it to be. Just need to get just a bit more down here. These. So now I am going to go in with my dark sepia and just start to work some tonal value. Again, not pressing hard at all. I think for me, ears are the one of the most enjoyable things to draw. Absolutely love drawing ears because you can just get such wonderful depth and dimension in them. And when you've got a lovely fluffy ear, this one isn't quite fluffy really. He's wet, so it's not really fluffy, but it's still a lovely ear to draw. Again, I'm really taking my time on this at this point. Not pressing hard at all, because I can tell just looking at this ear that it's going to take a lot of layers. And sometimes you have to tell yourself that before you sit down to draw. You've just got to be like, this is going to take a long time. There's lots to it. I'm just going to get into it, enjoy the process. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on feeding this dark sepia into these dark areas. And although these bits are coming down, these light bits are coming down this way, the dark bits are actually coming across this way, across the front of it. So again, they're going to be edge to values because there's something behind it. If there's ever anything behind it, whatever you're drawing, if there's ever anything behind it, it's always an edge to value. No exception. If you want it to look real, that is. You can draw it however you want. It doesn't. But if you're looking for realism, then yeah, edge to values are mega important. So I'm just following what I've already got down, looking backwards and forwards from my reference image, Just picking out these dark bits still. And I like to have my reference image right next to me, so I've got mine literally just off the side of the page, so it's just there. I find it much easier to have it so that it's just my eyes moving as opposed to moving my whole head. You can just move your eyes backwards and forwards. And this is a part where it's very, very easy when you first start a piece, when you first start to work on a different piece or of the piece that you're doing. So I've already done the eye stuff, but I'm starting on a different piece now, which is his ear. It's always difficult to, well, for me personally, I have to slow myself down. I have to occasionally take some deep breaths and just be, just calm down a bit, and because it's very difficult to see at the moment the finished piece, and it's really easy to get into the frame of mind of, right, okay, I want to get these bits down um, as quickly as I can, and then I'll be able to see. I can see what's happening there, and I can get some detail in. But it doesn't work like that. If you rush these bits, you won't get the detail in. It's very, very difficult to uh, to bring a piece back from being rushed on. Um, it's it's just, yeah. Unless you go through it with a kneaded eraser and spend hours and hours scraping things, and you just can't get it to look right. So I always make sure that I'm taking my time. So we're going to go in with some blue in a minute, because this is, like I said, a wet dog as well. Wet shiny dog, there's lots of blues in there, and we want a much deeper colour than what we've got at the moment. We will just feed this dark sepia in first though, because it's important to get that range of colours and values. It's really important that you don't skip parts like this where you're getting the base layers in, because these are the foundations, these are the building blocks for a beautiful portrait at the end of it. But again, you just need to take your time. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So I think my plan is to record bits that are important, i.e. eyes, ear, muzzle, nose, whatever you want to call it. But the rest of it, I mean, it's exactly what I'm doing here. I don't want to do hours and hours and hours of footage and people get bored, and so yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts if you agree, or if you wanted to see me draw all of it. Be nice to get some feedback if anybody has any. Right. Let's just quickly go in with Cold Grey 1. Just want to get some of these highlights back in because it's very easy to lose these, and if you lose them, then you've got to try and find them again, which it's not much of a big deal. But like I say, with commissions, you need to get them done. You need to get on with it. So you don't want to spend much time freehanding if you can help it. And again, these highlights, even though they're highlights, they've still got blues and purples in them. They're not just white and grey. So, I mean, most of my time really is spent going back over things that I've already done. um, Especially as I'm doing what I'm doing now and not covering the page and getting all the crayon out of my hand and just smudging it. But no, I'm usually just going back over what's already there, just putting more layers in. Um, that's another reason that I don't freehand it and I lay it out the way I do, is because that also gives you more time to get more layers in. Um, you don't want to be wasting time. Well, I mean, you can, obviously. It's up to you. It's up to you entirely how you do anything. But in my opinion, if you want to start drawing, especially if you want to start a successful commission-based art business, you've got to get through them. You haven't got time to be sitting and enjoying freehanding. And I mean, I say enjoying freehand. There's still lots of freehanding to do, even in this piece. It's not a finished dog yet, is it? If I just colour it in black, you still need to you still need to see the shapes and identify things like that. But if you've got the highlights down or little things that just help you see where you are, it just helps massively. And then if you do lose things and you can't see, um, you can't see where you're supposed to be. You can't, you've been trying and trying and you can't figure it out. I use a pair of dividers, which are here. So I use these, and then what you can do is, let's say you were looking for the width of his eye. You get your dividers and you can go from point to point like so, and then you can put it down and you can say point to point like so. Right, okay, so mine, it's a bit big, so I can do that, or mine's a bit small, so I can add a bit. Do you know what I mean? So you can work out sizes and proportions and things like that way as well. Um, and that's how I used to lay my drawings out when I first started with a divider and a straight edge, and I have done a tutorial on that, which I'll link up in the corner of the screen if anybody wants to watch that. That is called how to draw without how to draw accurately without a grid, and that walks you through using dividers and a straight edge to lay out your drawing. And the beauty of that method is that you can scale the image up or down and still keep it perfectly in proportion. It works really well, but it takes a long time. And yeah, unless you've got days and days and days, it's just not practical really. But it's a very good way of learning to draw. I think it helps getting grasp on proportions and sizes and things like that, and seeing shapes and stuff. It helps them immensely with all that, and I think that's a good way of improving your freehand skills. Really, is you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? So um, yeah, it's a really good place to start. It's just unfortunate that it takes so long. And I mean, you obviously you get faster at it the more you do it, like anything else in life. But yeah, it's still a bit slow, really. Um, I think it's a much better idea, and it's a much more enjoyable process to um, just use a projector or just trace your line drawing. It just makes everything much easier. And I said in the first video, in step one of how I laid it out, I said that there will be there'll be people that say, "Oh, this isn't art," and you'll have dislike. And sure enough, there's people saying, "Oh, it's cheating," and just let them think what they think. or even better, print them off one of your own line drawings, send it to them and say, if I'm cheating, here you go. We've both got exactly the same line drawing. Let's see your finished piece. And let's see my finished piece. And we'll see. And I can tell you now, unless they are actually, a fellow artist, then they're gonna be worlds apart. This is the fun part, the getting all the dimensions in, all the tones and colours in, and making it look 3D. That's the fun part. The laying it out, and I suppose it depends who you are, doesn't it? And depends what we're all different. But yeah, for me personally, I'm always eager to get on and make it look like a dog, and not spend ages just getting perspectives right. Okay. Right, now I'm going to go in with a Fatalochian blue, apparently. That one. I have no idea what that's called, but it's just a blue. So, I mean, something else I will say actually is it doesn't matter the colours. Um, really, it's not about colour. Although, which sounds stupid. Of course, it's about colour, but you could draw this. I could draw this in different shades of green and just draw it all green in different shades of green, and it would still look like this dog, but he'd just look green. But if I was to draw it in exactly the same colours that uh, that I'm using now, or the exact right colours for him, but I wasn't paying attention to tonal value, um, I can guarantee you now it wouldn't look like him. So yeah, it is tonal value and um, tonal value, lights and darks is literally the most important in my view. If you get those correct, then everything else is much easier. So what I'm doing now, I'm not going over all of the dark sepia that I put down. I'm just going over where the real dark bits are. And so I'm using a combination here. I'm feathering some in when I'm going on the edge like that, feathering in, but then I'm also in the darkest places, I'm also using circular motions just to get that solid block of colour. So just the darkest bits. this bit, the darkest bits are going to be right underneath where the hair's grown on top of. Down again, just make sure that you're not just going gung-ho and oh yeah, there's lots of blue in it, just put blue everywhere, and you can't do that. It's you need to really pay attention to the. I mean, another thing you can do is have multiple print offs. So you can have a black and white print off. You can have one where you have made it really bright so you can see all the darker bits, and then you can have one where it's really dark so you can see all the lighter bits. It's about finding what works for you, really. I find this way works for me. So you'll see in a minute, once we've got this blue in, and then we go over with the black, because we are using black. There is some black in this. Obviously, it's a black dog, but most people's perception would be it's just black. You just use a black pencil, but it's not at all. There's much more blues and purples, and like I said, the more of those that you can identify and just squeeze them in, the better your portraits will be. Promise you that. So this, it's not all dark. There. Just keep twizzling your pencil as well. That will stop you using harder pressure. If you're struggling to get any pigment off, just twizzle your pencil around. If you watch drawing on YouTube, you will see pretty much every artist does it. And it will definitely, if you're somebody who is going over, but there's just no more pigment coming off, and it's I just really want to press down really hard. Just turn your pencil around, and you get onto the sharper chisel point as opposed to the sweet spot. Makes it much easier for the tooth to take the pigment off. Just feeding that blue in still. Just getting the deepest darkest parts. Forget this is an edge to value, so it's the only place where you need to be making sure that you're not going over the ear. So I tend to grip my pencil a little bit tighter, stand it up a little bit more, so I'm gripping it more towards the tip as opposed to back here when I'm doing that. And then just being careful, making sure that the actual edge is where I want it to be. And then again, this fades away. You can see already how that has brought his ear off his face. You can already tell that his ear sat on top of his face as opposed to smeared across it. So let's just feed the rest of these bits in. Now you can start to see now where where things are going much easier. Okay, so now let's go in with the black. Now you need to be really careful with the black. I just want, at the moment, I'm just feeding this on top of the blue. I don't want it anywhere else apart from where I've already put blue, because obviously I want the blue covered. The dog is not that blue. But I don't want to be feeding this, like I've just done there, into the wrong place. So this is why Pastomize is so good. So this here is much lighter than that. You can just come in, no pressure. I'm not trying to make it disappear. And then come back in with black. Just feed that in. There we go. So I'm still looking at my reference image and not just taking that there's blue there, or else I wouldn't spot it, things like that. Then you still got to look backwards and forwards, which is why I like having my reference image so close. It definitely helps a lot. You can see how much of a richer black you can get just by using a bit of blue or purple or red underneath first. It makes such a difference. Right, come on then, let's get these darks dark. Again, I'm still not pressing hard. I'm still not using loads of pressure. Trying to protect that tooth as much as possible. I like to think, especially with ears, think about drawing the hair in clumps as opposed to individual hairs. So I see that bit as a clump, and I see this bit as a clump, and I see these bits as clumps coming down from underneath the clumps that are going over the top of it. So you're not drawing individual hairs. And again, this is still just working on tonal value. And you can see already, just by getting the right tonal value in, details are starting to slowly emerge. Like I said, it takes a while, but the more you do, the more tonal value you get in there. the more details it will appear. Right, we need to get this black because this is probably the darkest bit on the whole portrait. This edge to value down here where it starts fading away as it comes out, getting lighter and lighter and lighter, but in the depths of right underneath, that's where it's going to be the darkest. And then just feed black into that blue. On the reference image, you can't see a direction that the fur is growing in down here. It's that black. So if it is that black and you can't see any fur direction, do yourself a favour and just get it that black, because there's no point in putting layer upon layer upon layer. It's got the blue under there to make it a nice rich black. And now it just needs to be black. So up here we can see some direction of the fur, so we don't want to go quite so gung-ho there. Okay, so another thing what we can do is just get a little brush. Just I tend to blend this way as opposed to as opposed to getting loads of pressure down and burnishing it. I tend to just go around with a brush, again very lightly, just brushing the pigment that just sits on top of the page, just brushing it around. Okay, I think we're going to have to leave it there for this one because it's quite far off an hour now. So yeah, as you can see, it takes a long time. So I think I will come back in part 4 and finish the ear off. I want you to see that finished, and then carry on with the face. So once again, please do subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And yeah, I will be back with part 4 for the rest of his ear. All right, thanks, guys.